Just a quick one, guys. About this news with regards to God of War 2018 going to PC. How do I feel about it? Well, I know a lot of fanboys are outraging, but are they outraging? See, from what I've seen, I think there's a lot of Team Xbox cheekily trying to fake a narrative that PlayStation fanboys are butthurt over God of War 2018 going over to PC. But I think the reality is that it's finally sinking in to these to the PlayStation community as a whole, including PlayStation fanboys, that games going to PC years later after release does not in any way, shape or form affect the quality or impact the way that those games were designed. So when you break it down, guys, God of War 2018 was built from the ground up for PlayStation 4. Natively, it was built specifically for that hardware. Its quality wasn't compromised for the sake of being a multiplat. So I do think that now this is finally settling in, and Sony are clearly showing a pattern here with, prior games that they've brought to the PC platform as well. I think it's safe to say, guys, including the Uncharted Legacy, which is coming out as well, the Uncharted series is going to PC, that Sony are showcasing their tactic, which is double dipping these games, right? And what do I mean by double dipping? I mean reaching peak monetization with its initial release, built for its platform, for its major platform, and then re-releasing the game on other platforms way after the sales have peaked, to not only get more sales and more money, but also to increase mindshare from the market, such as the PC market, which there's a lot of people who will be playing God of War 2018 for the first time on PC, absolutely have their minds blown at the quality and go, holy shit, I cannot wait for Ragnarok, I'm gonna get a PS5. You see how this aids Sony's plan to try to get as many people as possible enticed into buying a PS5 and making its way into the PlayStation ecosystem. Whereas it's not quite the same with Xbox, because what Xbox do is they provide you alternatives. And it's almost cannibalizing, right? Because you can play any Xbox game day one on PC. So there's not really an incentive there to buy an Xbox, especially if you've got the money to invest in hardware but more powerful than the Xbox Series X. And that's a key difference between Sony's strategy and Microsoft's strategy, I feel, is that with PlayStation, going to PC later down the line is no bad thing, and it's in fact a benefit to the PlayStation console. The day and date thing is another story. If ever PlayStation were to go down the road Microsoft have taken with Xbox, I would not be happy with that. I don't want PlayStation 5 games to be built for multiple platforms. Now, why would PC be such a problem? It wouldn't make sense for several reasons. Either they make the game to take full advantage of the PS5 and still release it on PC day one, which would be completely counterproductive towards sales, because who will have a PC big enough or strong enough to play a PlayStation game that's built specifically for the PS5? For example, Ratchet & Clank is only scratching the surface, right? So when Insomniac push the boundaries further with their next games in what they're going to utilize with the SSD and all that shit, when that happens, can you imagine trying to run that thing on a PC? You're going to need at least 64 gigabytes of RAM to compensate for the lack of SSD I/O. Unless they instead compromise the quality of the game and have the minimum spec requirement accessible to a lot of players for them to buy that game on PC. So you see how this means and shows that for it to be multiplat day one on PC, it would require a huge sacrifice in ambition and quality, because these games would no longer be made bespokely for the PS5 system. It just wouldn't fit the ethos of PlayStation, and it wouldn't, as a consumer, as someone who's invested in the product, it wouldn't be something that I would in any way, shape or form be happy about. Alternatively, they continue the double dip approach and make these games for PlayStation, release them later down the line for PC if the hardware is accessible enough to run that game. And I'm pretty damn sure, guys, it's going to be at least 2 or 3 years before we start seeing PS5 games on PC. Right now we're only seeing PS4 games. The reason for that, guys, is because the PS5 games that we're getting now would be able to run on PC, but down the line, hell no, definitely not. Not yet anyway. We're going to need significant improvements in hardware with the RDNA 3, the infinity cache, and all the bells and whistles that come from IO architecture, which is being designed for the PC space right as we speak, to not only be released but to be accessible to a lot of gamers, for even a release on PC to be marketable and sellable, because sales would be extremely low in that case. So yeah, this is kind of just more of a rant from me, more of a sharing of my thoughts about the whole thing. But as it stands, guys, in summary, very, very happy with the tactics and strategic kind of business momentum that PlayStation are kind of showing at the moment. And I think getting more PC gamers enticed into the PlayStation ecosystem is really working for them, because these games releasing on PC are hitting the top of the charts in Steam, and so far it hasn't affected the quality of the games when they were, and how they're made and when they released. So it's a win-win in my opinion. But let me know what you guys think. Would love to hear your thoughts and opinions on it. And there is no Company of Gamers podcast this weekend. However, guys, there will be a Company of Gamers podcast next weekend. I'm at work all weekend this weekend, so unfortunately, I can't fit it in. But next weekend's going to be awesome, because we're going to be actually having a few experts, a few software engineers, and even a game developer break down for us just how impactful SSD architecture will be for video games, not just with loading times and all that commonly known stuff, but also with visuals. Believe it or not, it does impact visual fidelity quite significantly, because it restructures the entirety of how they utilize RAM, and no longer is it almost like a storage for things that they need that to display later on in the game, because the hard drive isn't fast enough to load it. So with that being the case, expect huge improvements in game design and in visuals as the SSD architecture of these consoles is more and more utilized by game developers as they get more and more used to the systems that they use and that they're building on. So yeah, have a good one, guys, and I will catch you in a week's time on Company of Gamers podcast.